The courtroom erupted as the gavel struck, and the sound echoed like a gunshot across the stunned crowd. Reporters shouted questions while cameras flashed relentlessly. Emma Clarke said, "This is not justice, it's a spectacle." Her words carried both rage and fear. Judge Harrison leaned forward, his voice firm as he said, "Order must be restored, or the trial will be adjourned." The tension was unbearable, every eye fixed on Emma, as whispers spread like wildfire. David Cole, her former manager, muttered under his breath, "She brought this storm upon herself." A journalist yelled, "Is it true you were involved in the disappearance of funds?" Emma's eyes flickered with panic, but she quickly masked it with a cold stare. Maria Lopez, her longtime assistant, clutched her purse tightly, whispering, "They'll twist everything, Emma." In the gallery, fans sobbed while critics sneered. Chaos was not just legal. It was personal, emotional, and global. Emma's fall from grace was now public theater. The revelation came swiftly. Evidence tied her to crimes hidden for years. The courtroom gasped as the prosecutor announced, "Emma Clarke is not only accused of fraud, she is under investigation for conspiracy linked to organized crime." The world had just shifted, and nothing would be the same again. Outside the courthouse, chaos spilled into the streets as cameras followed every step. Reporters pressed forward shouting, "Emma, do you deny the charges?" Emma Clarke raised her sunglasses, muttering, "They want blood, not truth." David Cole scoffed, "They'll eat this alive." Maria Lopez whispered, "We should leave before this gets violent." Police held back a storm of protesters, some chanting in support, others screaming for justice. The media vans broadcasted live, headlines flashing across the city skyline. Anthony Reynolds said, "The evidence will speak louder than her words." Every angle of Emma's life now lay bare, each secret dragged under the merciless light of cameras. Inside a dim newsroom, anchors shouted instructions as breaking news banners flashed red across the screens. A journalist said, "Emma Clarke's trial is the biggest scandal of the decade." Producers scrambled with papers, while phones rang off the hook. Another anchor said, "Her empire crumbles as new allegations tie her to organized crime." Emma's face plastered every screen, half angel, half criminal. David Cole appeared in one clip, smirking, saying, "She always thought she was untouchable." Maria Lopez appeared in another, saying softly, "She's not the monster they paint her as." The media had turned her downfall into a global obsession, and no one looked away. Emma sat in the back of a black SUV, city lights reflecting on tinted windows. Maria Lopez said, "We should disappear, Emma." Emma whispered, "Running proves guilt." David Cole said, "Staying means destruction." Silence thickened as the car crawled through swarming paparazzi. Their voices clashed against the flashing storm outside. A reporter banged on the window shouting, "Emma, were you involved in fraud?" Emma's jaw tightened, her eyes burning with restrained fury. She said softly, "They will not break me here." Yet the truth lingered like poison, and the night closed in with suffocating dread. The world gasped as live broadcasts revealed shocking documents leaked from within Emma's circle. A reporter declared, "Financial trails connect Emma Clarke to criminal enterprises." Judge Harrison appeared on screen, grimly stating, "This case is darker than fraud." Anthony Reynolds said, "We are pursuing conspiracy charges." Fans wept outside, holding signs that read, "Innocent until proven guilty." David Cole muttered, "She can't hide from this anymore." Maria Lopez said, "They're twisting it all, Emma." Emma Clarke whispered to herself, "I built an empire, and they'll bury me with it." The first act of this tragedy closed with revelation. Emma was no longer just a fallen star. She was the centerpiece of a crime that shattered illusions. Years before the scandal, Emma Clarke walked the dim streets of her small hometown, dreaming of stages she had never seen. She whispered, "Someday, they'll know my name." Her determination glowed brighter than the neon signs above. Maria Lopez said, "Emma, you're reckless, but you're unstoppable." David Cole, already chasing opportunities, remarked, "If she makes it, we all make it." A local talent agent laughed. "She's too raw, but raw can sell." The nights were filled with cheap bars, smoky air, and Emma's voice cutting through the noise like fire. She sang for strangers, but she carried herself like a queen. Every lyric was a plea for escape, every note a blade against the silence of her past. She lived in a one-room apartment with peeling paint and broken dreams, yet her eyes sparkled with ambition. Fame was her only way out, her shield against the world, her destiny. The rise was inevitable, but so was the shadow trailing behind. Emma's star ignited fast, burning brighter with each performance. In smoky clubs, she sang like her life depended on it, drawing crowds who screamed her name. David Cole said, "She's lightning in a bottle, and I'll make sure the world sees it." Maria Lopez whispered, "She's meant for more than this." The first record deal arrived in a crumpled envelope, a contract written in promises and traps. Emma signed with trembling hands, muttering, "This is my way out." The flashbulbs soon followed, her image plastered across magazines. She became the voice of a generation, adored, envied, and watched. Yet within every handshake and every contract lay a quiet threat, a hunger that surrounded her success. Her rise was spectacular, but the seeds of betrayal had already been planted. The world fell in love with Emma Clarke, her voice a mixture of fire and vulnerability. Interviews painted her as flawless, magazines hailed her as unstoppable. She said, "I owe it all to the people who believed in me." Fans camped outside studios, chanting her name. Maria Lopez said, "Emma, don't forget yourself in all of this." David Cole snapped, "She doesn't need advice, she needs loyalty." Luxury cars, endless tours, flashing lights, her life became a carousel of applause. Yet behind every glamorous photo shoot, Emma stared into mirrors asking, "Am I enough without the spotlight?" The world adored her, but envy brewed in dark corners. Success made her untouchable, but it also made her a target. Amidst the glittering rise came the first whispers of betrayal. A lover entered her life, charming and dangerous. Emma Clarke said, "He makes me feel alive, but he watches every move I make." Maria Lopez whispered, "Something about him feels wrong." David Cole rolled his eyes. "Love makes you blind, Emma." Nights once filled with music now burned with arguments. His hand on her shoulder felt less like love and more like control. Fame gave her power, but love placed her in chains. Behind closed doors, her empire began to tremble. The audience never saw the cracks, but they grew with every whispered fight. The seed of doom had been planted in the heart of her love. Emma Clarke stood on stage in front of thousands, but her smile hid storms brewing inside. She said, "This is everything I dreamed of, but dreams can turn to nightmares." The crowd roared, blind to the shadows that trailed her. David Cole whispered, "Don't lose focus, Emma, they'll destroy you." Maria Lopez muttered, "She's drowning, but no one sees it." The lover's shadow lingered at the edge of every stage, every spotlight, his control suffocating. Fame had lifted her, but betrayal was pulling her down. The anchor of her life was not applause but chains she could not escape. This was love and doom woven together, and the descent had already begun. The interviews that once crowned Emma Clarke as America's sweetheart began to unravel under the weight of cracks in her mask. She sat under harsh studio lights, her voice trembling as she said, "I'm fine, just tired." The interviewer leaned in, pressing, "Rumors say otherwise." Maria Lopez whispered from backstage, "Don't let them corner you." David Cole hissed, "Answer carefully. This is war." Cameras zoomed in, capturing the quiver of her lips, the flicker of fear in her eyes. The world saw confidence slipping into fragility. Headlines screamed about exhaustion, breakdowns, and whispered addictions. Emma's every word was dissected, her laughter replayed as evidence of hysteria. The facade of control shattered, and the first wave of doubt flooded the public. The paparazzi became predators, circling Emma Clarke's every move. Outside a luxury restaurant, cameras exploded with flashes as she stumbled, shielding her face. A photographer yelled, "Emma, "Are you drunk again?" she shouted. "Leave me alone." Maria Lopez tried to cover her with a jacket, whispering, "Keep moving." David Cole snarled, "Smile, or they'll devour you alive." The lover lingered in the shadows, smirking at her humiliation. The photos were merciless. Mascara streaked, wineglass clutched, dignity shattered. The world devoured the images, ignoring the truth behind them. Emma became a headline, not a human, her fall immortalized in snapshots. The betrayal struck deeper when whispers spread of close friends selling stories to tabloids. Emma Clarke said bitterly, "They loved me when I was rising, but now they auction my secrets." Maria Lopez murmured, "It's envy, Emma, nothing more." David Cole snapped, "Everyone has a price." The headlines painted her as reckless, violent, unstable. Leaked voicemails revealed late-night arguments, private pain broadcast for profit. Fans questioned her authenticity. Rivals laughed at her collapse. Every betrayal carved another scar. Every sold secret, another chain dragging her down. Emma's empire cracked, not from enemies but from friends who cashed in her ruin. The media storm intensified as cracks within Emma Clarke's circle became impossible to ignore. In a tense meeting, Emma shouted, "You were supposed to protect me." David Cole slammed the table, retorting, "I made you a star, and now you're destroying yourself." Maria Lopez cried, "This isn't her, she's drowning." The lover leaned back smugly, saying nothing, his silence sharper than knives. Reporters outside speculated about money missing, fights escalating, secrets festering. The inner circle fractured, each loyalty tested, each bond snapping under pressure. Fame once united them, now it tore them apart, feeding the world's hunger for destruction. Then came the night that changed everything. A phone call shattered the silence, piercing Emma Clarke's fragile world. Maria Lopez answered first, her face draining of color as she whispered, "Emma, it's bad." Emma took the phone, listening in frozen horror. The voice on the other end said, "Someone's gone missing, and your name is tied to it." David Cole stormed in, shouting, "This is the end, Emma. They'll bury you alive." Emma dropped the phone, trembling, whispering, "Nothing will ever be the same." The cliffhanger slammed shut like a door, sealing her fate in darkness. The mask tore away as investigators unearthed a hidden identity linked to Emma Clarke's past. In a press briefing, Anthony Reynolds said, "We've uncovered financial records under a different name, tied directly to Emma Clarke." Emma whispered, "That's impossible." David Cole shouted, "They've got proof, Emma, undeniable proof." Maria Lopez trembled, "You told me everything. But this changes it all." The lover smirked from the corner, his silence speaking volumes. Screens around the world lit up with the revelation. Emma was not just a star, but someone living under secrets buried in contracts and lies. The story shifted from scandal to conspiracy. The truth had always been darker. The betrayal was unveiled in the quietest moment, when Emma found hidden emails linking her lover to organized crime. Emma screamed, "You used me!" The lover sneered, "I gave you everything you wanted, and now I'll take it all back." Maria Lopez cried, "He's been controlling you, Emma, every step of the way." David Cole slammed his fist against the desk, shouting, "We should thin this coming." The betrayal cut deeper than the crimes themselves. The person Emma trusted most had been orchestrating her ruin, tightening chains disguised as love. The twisted truth stripped her bare, and there was no way back. The hidden crimes burst into the open with shocking clarity. Anthony Reynolds announced on live television, "Evidence reveals Emma Clarke's charity fund was used as a cover for laundering money." Emma gasped, "No, I never touched the accounts." David Cole muttered, "You signed everything. They'll never believe you." Maria Lopez said, "She didn't know, she trusted the wrong people." The lover remained silent, his cold grin proving guilt without words. The media feasted, headlines screaming fraud, corruption, betrayal. What seemed like a glamorous empire was built on poisoned foundations. The twist was brutal. Fame wasn't her crown, it was her curse. The shocking alliance emerged. The lover wasn't just manipulative, He was deeply entangled with organized crime. Emma Clarke whispered, "You dragged me into hell." The lover replied coldly, "Hell built your empire." David Cole roared, "You've doomed us all." Maria Lopez sobbed, "We trusted the wrong man." Investigators revealed secret meetings, photographs, and wire transfers connecting him to criminal syndicates. The world watched, stunned, as Emma's glamorous life was painted as a facade masking darkness. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was systemic, calculated, and lethal. She wasn't just falling. She was being pulled into a war she couldn't escape. The revelation was no longer about gossip. It was survival. Anthony Reynolds said, "This case is bigger than celebrity. It's organized crime, fraud, and betrayal." Emma Clarke whispered, "I thought I was untouchable." David Cole muttered, "We built everything on lies." Maria Lopez cried, "You're more victim than villain, but they'll never see it." The lover smirked, "You were always just a pawn." The audience sat in stunned silence across the world, realizing everything they thought they knew about Emma was only the surface. The twist cut like glass, sharper than scandal, darker than fame. The storm had revealed the monster lurking in the shadows. The handcuffs clicked shut around Emma Clarke's wrists, the sound louder than applause had ever been. Reporters screamed, "Emma, what do you have to say?" She whispered, "I was never ready for this." David Cole muttered, "Your empire is ashes now." Maria Lopez cried, "She doesn't deserve this. Not like this." Anthony Reynolds announced to cameras, "Emma Clarke has been arrested on charges of fraud, conspiracy, and organized crime involvement." The lover smirked in the background, his silence as cruel as his betrayal. Emma's first night in jail was not filled with silence, but with the echo of her name shouted across cold halls. She pulled her knees close, whispering, "I was a star. Now I'm just another number." The trial began with the world watching. Inside the courtroom, Emma Clarke sat behind her lawyers, eyes dark and hollow. Judge Harrison said, "This case is unlike any we've seen. Celebrity, crime, and betrayal collide." Anthony Reynolds declared, "We will prove Emma Clarke knowingly participated in laundering money through her charity." Emma whispered, "I didn't know." David Cole muttered, "Your signature is on everything." Maria Lopez cried, "She trusted the wrong people." Every word was sharpened into a dagger by the media. Every expression twisted into guilt. Cameras captured each tear, each sigh, each moment of silence. Emma faced the weight of a world demanding blood. The betrayal cut deepest when the one person Emma trusted most turned against her. On the stand, David Cole said, "She knew everything. She signed it all." Emma shouted, "You're lying." Maria Lopez screamed from the gallery, "He's saving himself, not you." Anthony Reynolds nodded, his testimony supports our evidence. Emma's eyes widened with despair as her empire collapsed in real time. David Cole's betrayal was the final coffin nail. Emma whispered, "I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me." Silence fell heavy, the crowd holding its breath. Betrayal had a face, and it belonged to her former ally. Outside the courthouse, the media storm reached fever pitch. News vans surrounded the streets, banners flashing. Emma Clarke's fall from grace. Reporters shouted, "Monster or victim?" Fans clutched signs that read "We believe," while others screamed "Justice for the people." Maria Lopez sobbed, "She's drowning," and they're cheering. Anthony Reynolds told cameras, "This is about accountability, not fame." Emma's face was plastered across screens worldwide, her legacy burning in real time. The paparazzi flashes looked less like cameras, and more like executioners' torches. Fame was now her prison, and the world demanded destruction. The climax burned hottest when the verdict was announced. Judge Harrison's voice echoed, "Guilty on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy." The courtroom gasped as Emma Clarke collapsed into her chair, whispering, "This is the end." Maria Lopez sobbed, "They destroyed her." David Cole smirked, "She destroyed herself." Anthony Reynolds declared, "Justice has been served." The lover leaned back with cold satisfaction, knowing he had won. Cameras captured Emma's tears as her empire crumbled to dust. But the final line cut sharper than steel. The verdict was not the end. It was only the beginning of her ruin. The mansion, once alive with parties, stood hollow, echoing with silence. Emma Clarke wandered the vast halls, whispering, "It was all for nothing." Maria Lopez said, "Everyone's gone, Emma. They abandoned you." David Cole sneered on television. She lost everything because of her greed. The rooms that once glittered now felt like tombs, chandeliers covered in dust, walls lined with empty frames. Emma pressed her hand against the grand piano, the same one where her greatest songs were born, whispering, "I used to have music. Now I only have echoes." Fame had fled, leaving her to haunt the ruins of her own empire. Outside the gates, her loyal fans were gone, their chants replaced by silence. A lone sign read "Traitor." Emma Clarke whispered, "They loved me until they hated me." Maria Lopez said softly, "They don't see the truth, Emma, only the headlines." Reporters moved on, chasing the next scandal, leaving Emma forgotten in her own ashes. David Cole gave interviews mocking her downfall, laughing she was her own worst enemy. The empire of noise had faded into a vacuum of silence, and silence was louder than any courtroom gavel. Emma stared through the bars, whispering, "I'm invisible now." Exile became Emma Clarke's new reality. In a dim apartment far from her old life, she stared at cracked walls, whispering, "This is who I am now." Maria Lopez said, "At least you're free from them, Emma." Emma laughed bitterly. "This isn't freedom, it's exile." David Cole's name filled tabloids as he signed new clients, his betrayal rewarded. The lover vanished into the underworld, untouchable and unpunished. Emma pressed her forehead against the window pane, watching rain blur the city lights, whispering, "They wanted me forgotten, and they succeeded." Silence, loneliness, and despair became her companions. The silent witness emerged at last. A maid once working in the mansion came forward with testimony that shifted the story's direction. She said, "I saw him, her lover, not Emma, handling the money." Anthony Reynolds admitted this changes the timeline. Emma whispered, "After all this, the truth comes too late." Maria Lopez said, "It could save you, Emma." David Cole dismissed it publicly, sneering, "It's too little, too late." The revelation cracked the narrative, but not the world's judgment. Emma sat quietly, broken, realizing truth meant nothing when her empire had already turned to dust. The cost of crime and fame lay bare in Emma Clarke's final reflection. She whispered, "I built an empire of light, but it was fueled by shadows." Maria Lopez cried, "You can still rise again." Emma shook her head, saying, "The world only remembers the ruin." David Cole thrived, the lover vanished. Anthony Reynolds moved on to his next case, and the fans had long forgotten. Emma's voice, once her weapon, was now silent. The ashes of her life carried the weight of betrayal, fame, and choices that could never be undone. Her story had ended in tragedy, not redemption. The courthouse doors creaked open as Emma Clarke stepped into the cold morning air, flanked by silence instead of applause. Reporters aimed cameras, yet no one spoke. Emma whispered, "This is my last walk." Maria Lopez said softly, "You don't have to do it alone." David Cole muttered on live TV, "She'll vanish like all fallen stars." The lover leaned against a car in the distance, his smirk sharp as a blade. Anthony Reynolds told press, "Justice is served, but scars remain." Emma lowered her head, each step echoing like a funeral drum. The world watched in silence as she disappeared into the crowd. The media delivered its final strike, not with questions, but with silence. Tabloids, once screaming headlines, now carried smaller stories, pushing Emma Clarke into the margins. Emma whispered, "Oblivion is worse than hatred." Maria Lopez said, "They erased you like you never existed." David Cole chuckled on air, "She's history now." Anthony Reynolds declared, "We move forward. This chapter is closed." The lover's shadow appeared in gossip columns, unscathed, still thriving in the underworld. Emma stared at an empty newspaper rack, whispering, They buried me with silence. Fame had not ended with noise, but with erasure. Fans once screaming her name were now divided, their voices sharp as knives. Outside a stadium where Emma Clarke once sold out shows, graffiti marked walls. Fraud beside Queen forever. Emma whispered, "They don't know whether to love me or hate me." Maria Lopez said, "They'll never agree, Emma, you're their ghost." Crowds argued, some clutching posters, others tearing them down. David Cole laughed in interviews, "They're fools forever believing in her." Anthony Reynolds commented, "Public opinion isn't justice." The lover's name was never mentioned, his crimes buried, hers immortalized. Emma stood in silence, seeing her legacy torn in two. Emma Clarke sat alone by a cracked mirror, staring at the reflection of a stranger. She whispered, "Was it fate or choice that destroyed me?" Maria Lopez said, "You were betrayed, Emma, but you still carry the blame." David Cole gloated in another interview, "She wrote her own ruin." Anthony Reynolds said to reporters, "Her case will be remembered for decades." The lover's reflection appeared in Emma's mind, his smirk haunting her more than prison ever could. She touched the mirror and whispered, "I am not who they think, but I'm no longer who I was." Her reflection broke under her tears. The final blow came not with words, but with silence. Emma Clarke walked alone through an empty street, her figure fading into the night. She whispered in the end, "It wasn't my enemies who destroyed me, it was myself." Maria Lopez cried softly, following at a distance. David Cole thrived under new contracts, laughing in luxury. Anthony Reynolds stood on courthouse steps declaring, "The case is closed." The lover vanished into the dark, unseen yet undefeated. Emma's silhouette disappeared into shadows, never to be seen again. The story wasn't closure. It was an echo, haunting and endless.